Hello, and welcome to the Legal Growth Podcast, where we dive into strategies, challenges, and success stories shaping the future of law firms. I'm your host, Aaron Fulk, and together with the Legal Growth Partners, we'll bring you in-depth conversations with top legal professionals, industry innovators, and firm leaders. Our goal is simple: to share practical insights, innovative strategies, and real-world advice to help your law firm scale, adapt, and thrive. Whether you're navigating growth challenges or looking to boost your business development, you are in the right place. So let's dive in. This week, our guest is Jason. How are you, Jason?
Doing well, Aaron. How are you?
I am so good. You are in one of my favorite cities. You are based out of Denver, correct?
I am. Aurora specifically, but our office is in Denver.
I have a brother-in-law that's an Aurora firefighter, so very well versed.
Oh, nice.
In
Good for him. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, let's just jump right into it. Give us a quick overview of how you chose law and your specialty.
Yeah, so I have an extremely unique journey, I would say. And law is actually my second career. I didn't go to law school till I was, I think, 32 or 34. And I started off in the restaurant industry, spent 20 years there. I was managing front and back of house operations, decided I didn't want to do that. Then I went and traveled and worked at McMurdo Station, Antarctica as a contract worker before ultimately deciding to go to law school. How I got there was I applied to be a dispensary manager for Ian Sieb, who's our governor's kind of cannabis guy. He didn't hire me, thankfully, and that led me to kind of try to decide what I wanted to do. And I realized that I started, as I did some more research, I decided I wanted to become an attorney. I wanted to be an attorney in the cannabis space, also work in the restaurant space. And so I reached out to Ian again while I was studying to go to law school and doing all of that, asking him where I should go work. And so I ended up in Syracuse University working at Vicente, at the time, Vicente Cederberg, which was a leading law firm in the cannabis space. I think they were the only law firm that was exclusive to cannabis at the time. And so I went to law school, and while I went to Syracuse Law, they didn't have anything that was specific to cannabis. So I got a JD MBA and just kind of chose my classes after my 1L year. I kind of chose my classes to fit into the direction I wanted to go in, which was small businesses and international cannabis policy. And started at Vicente the summer of my 2L year, because my 1L year, I wanted to get practice in writing. I hadn't written. I'd been in restaurants for 20 years, so I hadn't written in so long. So I wanted to get some writing there. So my 2L year, I started working at Vicente, and I was there for 6.5 years and been doing corporate law and international cannabis policy since.
Okay, so international, is there a lot? I know we talked briefly that you went and taught like a 2-week class on cannabis law. Are there a lot more cannabis law options now? And it kind of sounds like you kind of paved the way for some of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly people that are doing it. I'm not the first. I mean, Bob Hoban, Christian Cederberg, they were two of the kind of the first to do real international policy. I mean, Christian Cederberg, who I worked with personally, did an incredible amount of work for Uruguay in their legalization, and also spoke at the UN on their behalf. And so when I went to Vicente, I had an uncle who told me he was an attorney at one of the larger firms, retired now, but he was like, "Why do you want to be an attorney?" I told him, and he was like, "Okay, I kind of get that. But one thing you should know going in, especially now, is when you go into a firm, especially as a clerk, find something that they're not doing and become an expert at it." And so on day one, literally at Vicente, someone came up and said that an attorney came up to the clerk table and was like, "We are looking into following cannabis policy around the world. Who wants to do it?" And I was like, "Definitely me. That aligns with exactly what I wanted to do." And so I took this Excel tracker and kind of built it out. And I get about 100 Google alerts a day, have been for now 8 years or so. So I follow every single country, their policy, their politics, and have become, I mean, I would put my knowledge up against anybody on global cannabis policy, just because I've been doing it for so long. And one of the things I got into through that were the international treaties. And because most countries really, they either decide to move forward or not move forward, really based on international treaty obligations and the 3 drug treaties. And so I really started to get into that. I worked with 2 individuals, Martin Jelsma and John Walsh, who are experts in this space. And they really gave me kind of a private tutoring, if you will, on that. And so I'm one of the few people in the US who understands this. And so UNLV, there was an opportunity to teach a class there. And so I took that opportunity and taught a bunch of 16 law students about international law and treaty compliance, which was a really fun thing to do. To kind of, it made me realize some areas I need to focus on more, and also just kind of was a really fun way to see how far I've come.
I feel like UNLV would be such a hard school to really focus on, and in much less law school. So they have to be some pretty dedicated students. You probably had a great class there. So what has been your biggest growth success story so far? Because this is pretty fascinating, going from restaurant world to law world, and then kind of being a professor too. Well, being a professor for short term.
Yeah, I mean, I would say my biggest growth story is just being comfortable with where I am now. I mean, I've been an attorney now for 5 years, and really kind of at this point understanding what I know, and especially what I don't know. Because coming in at an older age, especially with the gray hair, I mean, people just assume that I know. I've been doing this for a very long time. And so being able to actually not just sound like I know what I'm talking about, but actually know what I'm talking about, I think is probably the biggest thing that I have become comfortable with. I mean, I now work. I was with Vicente for 6.5 years, excellent firm. They just didn't do international. So I moved to Harris Sliwoski, who has more of an international presence, and they've really allowed me to expand my brand, if you will, and also my knowledge base. And so being able to get out there and actually representing myself at conferences and having my own clients, and all of that has really just given me confidence that my wife would disagree that I didn't have. I'm certainly a confident person, but actually the understanding and ability to maintain my own clients and expand what I want to do, not necessarily what the firm had set as what I should do. And so that's really been a really excellent opportunity for me.
Okay, I'm super excited to hear your question. We asked this, your answer for this next question. We asked this to everyone, but a lot of people have a more traditional path than you. So I bet your answer is pretty cool on this one. What is your most, what is the skill that has surprised you the most that's a non-legal skill that has actually helped you in your legal career?
Oh, I mean, the restaurant industry has been just completely invaluable in my ability to both communicate and multitask. I mean, having a front and back of house persona that all servers, all managers have, being able to know how you have to be when you're in front of an audience or in front of clients, customers, whatever the case may be, and then being able to kind of debrief and have your actual communications with your fellow staff members. All of that has been incredible. And then the multitasking has just been, I mean, it's ingrained in me after 20 years. It's just how I work. And it's why cannabis was so attractive to me. I had a attorney at Vicente really early on. Like I said, I'm a corporate attorney. It's where most of my experience comes from. But I was told my first year that I needed to find one thing and become an expert at that. And I just didn't agree with that. I didn't think that, and that also didn't make sense for what I wanted to do. Having come from restaurants where you can put me anywhere in a restaurant and I am great. I can be great at it. And I like that. I wanted to do the same thing with law. I wanted to be able to go anywhere with law. And I say, as far as being an attorney, I'm a jack of all trades and a master of one. I'm an excellent corporate attorney, and I know a ton about corporate law, and I know about that much about every other law out there, because I just have really spread my knowledge base. And when I went to law school, especially at this age, I really focused and learned. I mean, I was really into the learning part. So every class I took, I mean, I can still tell you cases from that, what I took out of that class. And so anytime I get any sort of questions out of anything I'm an expert at, I know exactly where to go to get the information I need to be able to help my client. And if it's beyond what I can do, I'm just now learning some litigation. Actually, I have a hearing right after this call. So I'm learning that to kind of add to my base. But that, I think, has been the greatest part of going to law late in life, was taking that restaurant experience and really just kind of incorporating it into the law and how I practice. And it's kept me sane and kept me really enjoying the area where I work.
Everybody should, I have a strong opinion. Everyone should work in the service industry at some point.
Absolutely. I will, if anyone comes to apply, if any job I've ever had where I hire people, if they have restaurant experience, I will always interview them, because especially if you've been successful in a hospitality space. Like my wife works at Trader Joe's, and that's another hospitality space. And so if anyone works in anything like that and has been successful in it, they can really thrive most anywhere if they have the brains for it.
Because they can deal with people, and people are the hardest part of business.
They are. Most jobs would be great if it wasn't for the people.
Right, wouldn't they be? All right, last question. Looking ahead, what trends or changes do you see shaping the future of law firms, and how are you positioning your firm and your practice to stay competitive?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm in a kind of a great situation with my firm. I mean, I'm not one of the partners. Dan Harris, Vince Sliwoski, they lead the firm, but they are really incredible at empowering the attorneys of our firm to really create their own practice group, to create their own kind of area in the space. And I think that is a model for what the future will be. I mean, with AI coming in, all firms are going to have to adjust. I mean, I know that there are some large law firms that prohibit AI. And I mean, my prediction would be that those firms will disappear in a few years, because that's just not, AI is not going away. The other thing I think is what I talked about earlier. I think that concept of mastering one area of law, I think you're doing a disservice. I told all my students that that is not the way that they should move forward. I mean, if that's what they want to do, if they are really passionate about one area, that's great. But most graduating law students get put into big law, and they just kind of like happen to get thrown in an area, and that's where they practice for the next 30 years. And that's why we have so much drug addiction, alcohol addiction. And I also don't see that as being a success model moving forward. I mean, because of AI, a lot of people are going to be able to get specific answers from AI without really having to go to the attorneys. The attorneys, being an attorney is going to fundamentally change. You're going to be reviewing a lot. I mean, I do now. I can't tell you how many clients come to me with like, I had AI draft this agreement, and then we review it, revise it, and make sure that it's what it needs to be, because any AI agreement is going to be bad initially. Basically AI is where like a clerk or a first year associate is, I would say. Maybe not that great yet, but close. And so with the advancements, if you're just specialized in one thing, that's going to be extremely difficult, I think, to sell yourself. And so I think being very good at one thing, but also knowing a bunch of other areas and being able to go wherever you need to go and adjust as you need to adjust is going to be extremely important for especially young associates coming in at a time when they're not only competing with each other, but they're competing with technology.
I agree with all of that. And I would almost say your head start on cannabis, that's a place that's going to just continue to grow as well.
Yeah, I mean, I told my students right at the beginning, I asked them how many of them wanted to become cannabis lawyers, and surprisingly, none of them raised their hands. They all wanted the knowledge and they wanted the experience. But that area of law, I mean, the closer we get to legalization, and once we get to legalization, that specialty is going to go away. It's like you don't have law firms that only do alcohol or only do tobacco. Like they have parts of their firms that do it. And that's what cannabis will end up being. But I think I was extremely lucky. I got into this in 2018. And I think that was right at there was a boom at that time. And I think maybe a year or two after that was when you really started to see a lot of layoffs and firms really consolidating. And now it's a great spot for me because I'm an expert in my area. Yeah. But if I was, like I told these students, advising young students coming in, I wouldn't advise anyone to only go into cannabis, to find a firm like the one I'm at now, where we do a bunch of other stuff. I mean, cannabis is a huge part of what I do, but I also do Chinese manufacturing, distribution agreements, Mexico cross-border transactions, and a lot of stuff with Europe. So that is where I would go if you want to do cannabis. I was extremely lucky that I got to spend 6.5 years at a firm that only did that in psychedelics. But I think that type of firm and that type of opportunity has probably passed as a junior, as a very like a first year associate.
Maybe you just go write a bunch of blogs, so you're the one coming up in AI for all that for later when
I do write a bunch of blogs. I write on Canna Law blog, which is one of the most popular cannabis blogs in the world. They've been around. I used to follow them when I was at Vicente doing my international stuff, because they were the only other firm that was actually doing it. And so now I get to write on it. And so you should check it out as well then.
I will, and I bet you are the one then coming up on AI for when they're going to need it, like you talked about earlier. So, well, this has been great, Jason. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us on the Legal Growth Podcast presented by Legal Growth Partners. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, drop us a review, and share it with your colleagues, because great insights are even better when shared. For more tips and tools to help grow your practice, visit legalgrowthpartners.com. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and keep smiling. Thank you so much, Jason, for coming on.
Thank you, Aaron. It was a pleasure.